So before we kickstart, I like definitions. I like defining things. Injude, you brought this topic, so please tell me and tell our listeners what was going on in your mind when you thought about this topic, which I'm sure a lot of people have a lot to say about.
Oh God, it's going to be a hot one tonight. I can already feel it. So subconscious bias. All right, let's kind of backtrack and unpack that a little bit. When I was thinking about this topic, subconscious bias. We know that um, our subconscious programming is basically in our subconscious mind think like this huge memory of information, right? We never forget things. So when I was thinking about subconscious bias, I was thinking about the thing that is stored up in our memory bank that we use to process when we meet people that we're not even aware of. Maybe in our storage bank, our subconscious mind, there's been some experience with somebody, I don't know, somebody that's very tall, and suddenly in our minds I know that person is too tall, but we can't quite quantify at that time. We don't even realize we're doing it. We are just basically cancel out. We're kind of cancel culture, canceling someone out based on our subconscious programming, be it race, be it culture, be it tradition, be it the way they eat, the way they chew, the way they smile, whatever it is. But they're like things that are there, dormant there, and they're working, they're churning away. We're not even conscious of that, and we've not really had that conversation with God's Holy Spirit to say, hmm, it just hold back and have that conversation with the Lord and with ourselves and say, are these things the barriers why I have not met, in quotes, the one? Is this why I keep turning people down? Is it just, yeah, just I'm just gonna leave it and open it and with that really
Okay. Thank you
started.
so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, thank you so much, Engineer. I love Google. I don't know who if anyone is like me. I like to go to Google to just see what people are saying about, the meaning of things. And I went on to Google, and I'm not saying Google is the be all and end all. And I found the meaning that it says, the part of your mind that notices and remembers information when you are not actively trying to do so. And then the other part says the part of your mind that influences your behavior even though you do not realize it. I actually like this bit of the definition. The part of your mind that influences your behavior, even though you do not realize it. So for tonight, let's use this line, when we're talking about what is it, I mean, as Christians, you know should we be thinking, should we be biased when it comes to age, class, culture, race, tradition? I mean, don't these things actually ensnare us when it comes to, dating people? Are we not shooting ourselves in the foot? Rather than listening to God, we're busy allowing these things actually sort of like dictate who we date and who we don't date. What are your thoughts? Before we go on, there's a scripture. It's always good to reference scripture as well, and then we'll open the floor to like a discussion. Njide, do you want to read James 2 verse 1? And I hope this is
Yes,
helping
yes.
you all. Yeah.
Yeah, James 2, verse 1. I'm going to read to verse 4. So, James 2, verse 1 from the New International Version says, my brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, must not show I'll never pronounce that word.
Favoritism.
Favoritism. Verse 2 says, suppose a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes also comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, here's a good seat for you, but say to the poor man, you stand there or sit on the floor by my feet. I think verse 4 is where we're going to. It says,
Yeah.
have you not discriminated amongst yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? That's quite powerful, really. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Njide. So on this note, I'm going to ask our listeners, please, if you're ready to actually share something, your views about this topic, please bear in mind, have you not discriminated amongst yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? And honestly, I believe we all have different views about this topic. So please be mindful. 2 minutes you have to share, but be mindful of other people's views. You may not agree with what people have to share. For those of you who have just joined us, we have pinned the topic in the chat room. Today we're talking about subconscious bias as Christians. Should age, class, culture, race, tradition ensnare us and dictate who we date? So I want to see some hands up. I can't see any hands up. You guys, no, we're not teachers here this evening. I want to see some hands up. Come on. Yes, thank you so much, Forgiving Pigeon. I love your name. So we'll
Mm.
bring you up, make you a speaker. We'll take two people at a time. I want to see some more hands up. We want to hear from the men today as well. The ladies always seem to be the ones raising their hands. So whilst Forgiving Pigeon is unmuting themselves, I don't know
Can
if
I
Emil.
read? Can I read what Anne said? Sorry to interrupt you,
Yes,
Sola.
yes, go on.
And I'm looking at the chat room, so I'm just kind of. So Anne has said what came to mind is that's what she's written. How sometimes we think we are righteous and non-judgmental, but
Mm,
the secret hidden brain proves us otherwise. I thought that was really powerful. Why don't you kind of bring that up?
wow.
Have that conversation going. Yes, the secret hidden brain proves us otherwise. I think that's quite a powerful. Thank you so much for that, and that's so true. Yeah. So go
Fantastic.
on with who's coming
Okay.
on stage.
Forgiving Pigeon, could you please click on the three buttons and unmute yourself so we can hear what you have to share? And anybody else in the audience, please raise your hands and you can come up on stage and share your views as well. Forgiven Pigeon, we're waiting on you. Would like to hear your views as well. And anybody else in the audience, please raise your hands. Yes, we have read the scripture. We have shared with you why Injide brought this topic to the table. And if Forgiven Pigeon isn't ready, I'll just share a little bit about myself. And I'm going to be very vulnerable here and I'm going to be very honest with you at one point in my life, honestly. So I'm of African heritage. I'm from Nigeria. I live in the UK. So I spent my formative years growing up in Nigeria. So all I was ever used to was just, my country people, like I would say. And coming to the UK, I still had that, idea in my head, if I'm going to date, I just want to date someone from my country. I'm being very honest with you. And what was the reason behind that? It wasn't because I was racist or anything like that. I just wanted to stick with what I felt I knew and what I was comfortable with. It took me a while for me to act, for God to actually break that within me to say, you know what, it's a big world out there. You can't limit yourself to just where you come from. And I'm being very vulnerable here, even to do with age. I had a problem dating younger than me. I just thought, no, it just wouldn't work. I just wanted somebody the same age as me. And then at one point, I thought people older than me were too much, just older than me. I didn't want to date older as well. So I was limiting myself. But besides limiting myself, I mean, for me personally, now I see that I was doing exactly what James, the book of James warns us, warns against that discriminating, um, culture, race, tradition, are we allowing these things ensnare us from actually meeting the people that God wants us to meet? So these are the questions. I want to see some hands going up. Everyone's very quiet today. What's going on? What's going on, people? I'm going to start calling names. Forgiven Pigeon, we're still waiting on you. I don't know if you're struggling to unmute, but if you want to unmute, all you have to do is just click. Yeah, I can see you've managed to do that now. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Right. Now, that's not my name, so I guess I was waiting.
Okay.
My name is Samuel. I don't know where Forgiving Pigeon came from. Right. So I think I agree with you. What I would say is those so called preconceived cultural ideas are not all bad, except that they shouldn't have priority. So, on a system of priorities, God's leading, character, compatibility,
Hmm.
uh, stuff like that would be a priority. And cultural similarities, cultural preferences age, preferences, ethnic preferences would then take a second seat. So that's what I have to share.
Okay, okay. So when you say preferences, so I would hope that we're also actually speaking to God and saying, God, who should I, be with? Rather than say, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with saying, this is what I want. But what if God says to you, but this is what I have for you?
Yes, I've probably experienced that. And I went for it. It ultimately didn't work out.
Okay.
But I broke through the preferences because I felt led of God to at least meet the person.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I actually met the person, I'm glad I did because those preferences, most of them were shattered. I
Mm,
liked the person after meeting them. And if I had allowed my preferences to block me, I would have missed the lessons I learned through the relationship. It turned out that they were most of those preferences were baseless because
mm,
individuals are so unique that you might meet someone who shatters your preferences and you find out you actually fall in love with the person and not with your ideas.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Hmm. I like that response. And sometimes God would allow us go through stuff to actually teach us. So like some people would say, no experience, is wasted. I believe that even through whatever it was you went through with that person, even though they didn't turn out to be the one for you, you probably learned something about yourself too, and you learned how to sort of like, um, move on with life and, just sort of like choose better, or maybe communicate more with God to show you who he really feels is the right person for you. So thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm going to call you by by what I can see on the screen. You
It's
didn't tell
okay.
me your name, but
It's
thank you so much
Samuel.
for Samuel. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Samuel, for sharing your thoughts with us. I will take you back down as a listener for now and bring somebody else up. We've got Virtuous Wombat on the stage. Can you please share for 2 minutes? And I'll bring up a few more people as well.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Shola, for the. My name is Ijeoma.
Hi, Ijoma.
Yeah, I locate the names for you, so I'm called Virtuous Wombat. Whatever that means. Sounds good. Just a quick one with regards to the question raised and to answer it properly. The Bible states clearly that God has given the human being free will. God will not impose his will, but I stand to be corrected. I believe God has given us free will. At the same time, as human beings, we are meant to actually seek the face of God with regard to the choices we've made. Yeah, God has given us the free will, but what is God's choice? Is God in agreement with the choices we've made? I think that's that's where you have a synergy between God's will and your will, because God has a plan for everything we do in life, both our spouses, whoever you spend eternity with. It also brings me to the question of bias and similarity, looking for someone that of your possibly your gender and your race and all that. As a child, I watched a movie called Mississippi Master. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. It's an old movie. Well, it was Denzel Washington and some other lady. I can't remember the lady's name. Denzel Washington, being a black guy, fell in love with an Indian girl. And the movie, the moral of the story from Denzel Washington's point of view, and based on the movie, was human beings gravitate towards their own kind. That doesn't make it bad or good. It's people's pride. It's a human instinct. You walk into a place as an Indian person, you see a fellow Indian. The natural instinct as a human being will be to gravitate towards that. That doesn't make it right or wrong.
Mhm.
It's what it says. So with regards to choosing a spouse, it's also individualistic. What do you resonate with? What actually goes with your personality? Oh, you
Yeah.
see sense of people who have fallen in love with people from different races, and it's worked out perfectly well.
Yeah.
So many factors. So there's no straight jacket rule. It has to be this way, or it has.
Yeah.
And you can't tell someone you don't do this or do that. No, we're all different. We all see life differently, and our lives are totally different.
Yeah.
So the point for me is, what's God's will, because God has given us free will, but God still has the say in it. So there has to be a synergy between God's will and your will. So
I
when you
like
align, it becomes amazing.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that, Ijama, that there has to be a synergy between God's will and what your will is. And I know
precisely.
that God will definitely guide you and direct you to the right person, if you open up your heart to actually hear from him. So thank you so much for sharing your views, Ijama. Greatly appreciated. So we have Carl on stage. This will be the second guy on stage. I love to hear from the guys as well. Thank you so much, Carl, for coming on stage. Can we hear your views as well? Before you go on, Carl, can I just ask Injide to reset the room for anyone who's just joined?
Okay, I'm going to reset the room and I'm going to, if you don't mind, go through the chat. The chat is buzzing.
Yeah.
I think most people are just having the chat room about
Okay.
this one.
Okay.
So, hello everyone, if you've just joined us. We are on Insult, as we all know, and this is the Say It Loud room. And today we are talking about subconscious bias when it comes to dating. We come here every week between the hours of 8:30 British time, 8:30 to 9:30. So welcome, everyone. So in the chat room quickly, there's just so much going on. Let me see if I can pick out a few. So Anne again says, I am open to any race, color, etc. Will it be considered, I think it's a question, will it be considered ageism to factor age difference regarding potential dates? My personal preference is older than me, but can consider probably maximum 3 years younger. Oh gosh, chats are coming. And then Jackie Lady says, I think it's a response to Reese. I think we have to be open to other cultures and races, not to say I always am. Otherwise, we are potentially missing out on fresh experience. I like that, fresh experience. I'm becoming more aware of how I make snap judgment. That is, thank you so much for being vulnerable there and sharing that. I think sometimes we all can make snap judgments. There's something here about physical preferences only, or should our preferences be non-physical? That's a question. Yeah, there's just so much in the chat room. There's lots of conversation going in the chat room at the moment.
Wow.
And then I like this one by Roberto. Let me just quickly read this one finally. He says, we're still in a fallen state. If we don't work on it, on the subconscious mind, I think he's trying to say, the subconscious might take the upper hand. We tend to stick with and the common that we know and what is familiar. That is just so important. Thank you so much, Roberto, for that.
I
Um,
really love
like
that.
that. That's exactly, so do
Yeah.
I.
I really love that last comment. Yeah, thank you so much. And all the comments in the chat box, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Please share amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Carl, can you please unmute and share your views with us? Thank you so much.
Okay, hello everybody. Obviously, my name's Carl, and it's a very quick one for myself. Initially, I just came on to make an observation, but then it just happens that my observation really goes with the topic of the day, on that we're talking about here. So I'll just quickly lay it out. I was recently chatting. I was talking to this person, and we've been talking for quite a while now, and it was going really, really well. And then for some reason, I forgot what the question was. What she asked me, and it led, because in the process of answering that question, I then sort of very casually, without even thinking about it, just mentioned about where my background is from, like if we're black and we've got like a particular background, and I've mentioned where my background is, and as soon as I send that message, it's been a while now. This is somebody who was constantly messaging. She'll be messaging like in the morning, at night, constantly messaging. And as soon as I mentioned where I was from, her messages back to me completely stopped. Obviously, I haven't then gone back since then, because I've waited. It's been a couple of days or 3 days, and that is very, very uncommon for the way what she's been like, you see. So it's made me be able to extrapolate exactly the reason why. Like you've got a very a high percentage of of assurance that this is why this person has done what they've done.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure it's because when I told her where I was from, my background. Okay, so this then leads me to the general observation that I wanted to make, was that, I mean, secular kind of say world dating site, for example, or to be more precise, say we weren't Christians here. I'm a born again Christian. You see, I know that it's not everybody that's born again, because some people don't. So let's just talk about Christians, okay? In the secular world, I can understand people having this bias, be it conscious or unconscious. I mean, a grown person, I myself, if I suddenly notice that I've got an unconscious bias, I see it and I address it. Yeah. So I think there should be a division, there should be a separation from us Christians from the secular world, where yes, we all have our sort of preferences and choices, some due to no fault of our own, say the way we're brought up is what we know and all that, fine. I've probably got my own biases as well. But when I recognize them, what I do is I speak about them so as to show the fact to show that I'm a Christian. So, for example, this person I was talking about, it would have been much better if she's. I don't know how the ladies feel about this, but I, as a guy, I would have preferred if that was the problem. She should have maybe replied me and said, "Oh, thanks for that. I actually don't like talking." I know it's difficult to say. I don't. That maybe I've had a bad experience with people from where you're from. I know it's not gonna be an easy thing to say, but
Hmm.
there should be a way to say, look, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, just say, look, whatever the reason is, maybe it's
Yeah.
from where you're from, and then we can leave. That would have been much better. I would have respected that,
Yeah.
because I'm not desperate. I'm not. We were only chatting, and it's
Yeah.
because we had common ground. You see
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say? So yeah, that was the point I was trying to make. Sorry if I went on for a bit too long, but yeah.
That's that's
Enjoy yourself.
completely okay. And I'm glad you actually shared your heart, because this is what this room is all about. Most times the ladies, bear the heart. It's nice to actually see a guy come up and actually share straight from his heart. I can't speak for this lady who did what she did. I don't know why she did what she did. But between herself and God, if she is a Christian, and that's something that she would have to answer to God to, because like we read in James, Njide read earlier on. I don't know if you were here when she read from the book of James, chapter 2, and verse 4 says, "Have you not discriminated amongst yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts?" So, I like the way you said there should be a division between Christians and people in the secular world.
Yeah.
So we have to be very intentional about how we come across, where's our integrity as Christians, our
Yeah.
character, all of that should reflect who we are. And, I'm not trying to judge this person. We're all at different stages in our lives as Christians. At one point, like I said earlier on, I don't know if you heard me, I probably did the same thing too. I just like, you know what, I don't want to know this person. But as we grow, hopefully that we grow
Mm.
in the stature of Jesus Christ and we start
Yeah.
doing what is right. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Carl. Truly appreciate you, and I wish you all the best, and God will bring you and lead you to that person that he knows will be, your, is it bone of bone, they say? One flesh with you. Yes. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Carl.
kindly.
God
Cheers.
bless you.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Fumilayo, can you please share with us just before you share, Fumilayo, and then Injide will bring up a couple of other people on stage. I'll just reset the room very quickly. Welcome to Say It Loud. Say It Loud is a platform right here on Table Platform, part of the SALT community. We come on here Wednesdays, every Wednesday, 8:30 to 9:30 British Standard Time. So if you're anywhere else in the world, please, always click on your, alert button so it tells you when to come on. We come on here to share various topics, where we can just all banter, encourage, empower, and learn from each other. I'm learning a lot just listening to you guys as well. And please invite your friends and family, your colleagues, whoever it is would benefit from these conversations. Thank you so much for being here. Injide, do you have anything you want to share? I'll just bring somebody else up on the stage, and then Fumilayo can share with us quickly as well.
I want to go to the chat box because the chat box
Okay.
I can get really distracted with the chat box. It's just
Please
so
go
much.
on. You do
There's
a
so
better
much.
job. You do a better job with the chat room than I do. Go on. Go ahead.
There's just so
Two,
many things. So I,
two
I
comments.
basically, so Daniel has shared the scripture from Proverbs 3:5-6. You know, the one about trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path, which is really,
Mm-hmm.
really good for us to keep our eyes focused on the Lord. There was one I wanted to share. So this one talked about go. All right, there was one that mentions what we read. Let's just. All right. So Anne says, interestingly, more than 70% of people. All right, send likes. That's a question. All right, Stephen, that was the one I wanted to pick up on. Stephen says, are we going to mention how the media creates false expectations of perfection? I think
Mm,
I know. I think
mm.
a lot of bias comes from constantly being exposed to an idea of what someone should be. Pow! Mic drop, I think. So
Okay.
that's a powerful one there. So thank you so much, Stephen, for bringing that on board. And quite a few people agreed with that. You know, there's conversations around that. Yeah, talks about, I think it was response to Laura, patience in the process of knowing someone could reveal that in due time. I missed a comment. I can't recall. Please, I apologize. Somebody did share a comment about trying to make the subconscious conscious.
Mm,
Right. And so, in trying to make that, I can't remember who posted that now because I read that in the chat box. Trying to make the subconscious conscious, make sure that you eliminate the subconscious. Does that make sense? So, you can questioning and auditing and querying the things you believe in and making sure that that's not a barrier to you meeting someone and you're working on your subconscious mind. I thought that was quite powerful. Yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Injide. Fumilayo is going to come on next, but just very quickly, that line I read earlier on, the meaning of subconscious, one line I read was the part of your mind that influences your behavior,
Mm.
even though you do not realize it. So, guys, think about this line when you come up on stage. So, Fumilayo, please, can you share with us, unmute yourself and share with us?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to share about experience I had some years ago where I was in my early 40s, and then there was a young guy, so I'm black, and a young guy who was in his 20s, and an attraction started in our workplace, and we just to hang out and so forth. And I was really concerned about the fact that I liked this guy, and I was concerned about the fact that he liked me as well, because there was like nearly a 20-year gap. And so I was like really troubled about my feelings for him. So I took my feelings to God. I was like, Lord, this does not look right. It doesn't seem right that I should like this guy. And then the Lord now led me, and it was as though I was doing something terrible. I mean, nothing happened. We just liked each other, got for lunch. And then the Lord now led me to Derek Prince, the late Derek Prince, who was a minister that the Lord used a lot in Europe, in Israel, as well as in this country and in America. And the Lord told me to go and read his biography. And Derek Prince's first wife was 20 years younger than him. And it was 20 years older than him. Sorry, was 20 years older than him. So as though the Lord was telling me how you're feeling, you're not the first Christian woman that's going to like somebody that's 20 years younger than her, and that you've got nothing to be ashamed of. You're doing nothing bad at all. That Derek Prince and his first wife, Ruth, I think her name was, they had a strong ministry in Israel together until she passed away. And then he married somebody and they adopted loads of children in Israel. And so it was just that piece, like taking, whether he's young, whether he's from a different class or race, is the fact that we're able to bring those our feelings to God and say, God, this is what I'm feeling about this person. This is how I feel. What do you think? And I felt such peace knowing that my feelings were not wrong or bad before God's sight. They were actually okay. And while nothing did happen, I made a decision not to have a relationship with the guy. One, he wasn't a Christian, but we had a good friendship in the workplace. But I had peace with God and within myself. And it was actually quite nice to have those emotions. It was nice for me to have butterflies every time I saw him when we went out for lunch together. It was nice, pure feelings, and God was not upset with me. I just want to share that because sometimes we might feel bad about liking somebody younger, especially as a woman, but God has taught me it's okay. I just want to share that, as I said.
Thank you so much, Fumilayo. And Jide, I don't know if you want to respond to Fumilayo, but I had a big smile on my face as I listened
So
to you,
did I.
Fumilayo.
So did I. That's so encouraging. I thank you so much, Milai, for that. I think I love the fact that she went back to God, because sometimes we're sitting in that in our subconscious mind with our subconscious prejudices, and we are really processing it in ourselves. But I love the fact that you took it back to God, and God, in his loving Father that He is, was able to actually point you to something relatable. Like it says, all right, it's all right to do this. However, there were other issues on ground that made it not really feasible for you. So yes, I think or it kind of revolves around the same thing. Always have that open communication with the Lord. Doesn't matter what the situation is, and yeah, he will show us the right way to go. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Njide. Tammy, could you please unmute your mic and share with us and for a couple of minutes, and I'll bring on somebody else on stage, and then we can continue the conversations.
Hi, everyone. I've really been enjoying hearing and listening. I'm just new to this platform, just signed up a few days ago, but listening to the different opinions that people are stating about biases, I just wanted to, I guess what came to my mind is that recognizing some of those things in myself, the height thing, the age difference. But I just wanted to make an observation that sometimes when you're on the receiving end of the bias, that it's not necessarily always about you. It just could be that the other person is still working through those things. And as the person before me just said, having to go to the Lord to work it out, I think that's the growing part in us, is that we go to the Lord, we work it out, we grow, and just allowing people to challenge. I'm not going to lie, I've been single for 7 years now after a divorce, and it's taken me a while to put myself out there, partly because I wanted to become whole. I wanted to heal. I didn't want to bring biases, judgments, negative things into a relationship, and recognizing I'm there. But as I'm starting out, recognizing that there's still also a few things that I need to work on. So I guess all I'd like to say to those of you that maybe have experienced a bias is that it doesn't always come from a bad place, maybe just a place of still healing, still growing, still learning, and just being open and recognizing that, sometimes you could be that person that could help someone along the way. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I was nodding away as you were speaking, when you mentioned sometimes when you have a bias, it could come from a place of healing. And I will just share again here. I'm sure there are people on here who know me. I love to share my heart. I just love to share, my experiences as well, because you just don't know who would actually be blessed just hearing your story and how you overcame. So I had a very bad relationship about a few years ago. And after that relationship ended, I actually said to myself, I would never date somebody from a particular race again. And I'm being very honest with you guys. I'm a Christian. I actually said that. But I said that from a place of brokenness. I said that from a place of my heart was broken. I had not allowed God to come in to actually deal with the situation. But the moment I allowed God come in to just take complete control of what I was going through, He healed my heart and I was open again. And I actually asked for forgiveness for actually voicing out those kind of feelings. So my friends actually used to say to me, but you can't say that, and stuff like that. I was just like, no, you guys don't understand. You don't understand, So Tammy, thank you so much for actually sharing what you shared, You'll be amazed how many people carry these biases within them, and they don't actually own up to them until maybe something really breaks them down, and then they can sort of like sit themselves down and have like a chat with God, and then God will say, you know what, maybe you should really let go of this. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense to anybody in here, but thank you so much, Tammy, for sharing, and welcome to Say It Loud. Say It Loud is a room where people come in every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time to 9:30 p.m. British Standard Time for an hour. We come here to just share different topics, that's single mature Christians can relate to. It's a safe online space, no condemnation, no judgment. We don't claim to know it all. Like you all, we're all depending on God to show us, the way to go, and as we navigate our Christian lives as single, mature Christians, as we wait to meet the one. So thank you so much, Tammy. God bless you. Thank you for joining Say It Loud. And to all of you who've actually come on stage, thank you so much. I'll bring up another person in a minute. We've got, I don't know how to say your beautiful name, Carrie? Carrie? Yes, I can see your beautiful hairstyle and your lovely pink rose. So do you want to share your views with us? Carrie, if you unmute yourself. And please, just before she comes on, please, I ask you, please, please, please do give us feedback. All you need to do is just press the 3 buttons and you can leave feedback, just so we let the SALT team know how these rooms are, blessing you, what you would like to see more of, hear more of, how we're doing. If you're encouraged by what we share when we come on a Wednesdays, we'll be grateful. Thank you so much. Carrie, we'd like to hear from you. And I'd like to bring up a couple of other people as well. So if Carrie is still trying to unmute us, okay, good. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks guys, and thanks for putting on the evening. It's such a good topic. As some of the previous people were talking, I was just thinking, it reminded me of a book that I've been reading for work called Thinking Fast and Slow. And I don't know if many people have read it. It's a bit niche, but it's basically just the idea that it's kind of natural, like in terms of our flesh, not in terms of our godliness or righteousness, but it's natural that we often have biases. It might just be something like every time someone's dated a guy in a green t-shirt, he's turned out to not be so great. So then it becomes something that's subconscious, that now as a protection mechanism, your body is just like, oh, okay, we don't like guys in green t-shirts anymore, or something like that. So it's like part of, in a way, how we're wired, but it also is something that stops us making good, at least in this book and from the psychology and theory point of view, it's something that also stops us making good decisions as well. And we miss things. It's sort of in the book, it sort of talks about the concept of, for example, big accidents that have happened because people have reverted to that fast thinking, those subconscious biases that stop them from seeing the whole picture or seeing a whole person. And I think it's also true for us. And it's, whilst it's something that is natural and fleshly, it's also probably, I would say, at least from my reading of the book, I was thinking it's quite opposed to the taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, because even though it's subconscious, it's still a thought. So it's still got to be submitted to Christ. That was just my random ramblings.
I like that. Please, can you share the title of that book in the chat room? So, anyone who wants to get a copy of it, I definitely want to read that book. Injide, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Do share the book, yeah.
Yeah.
Worth a read, yeah. But she's so correct. I don't know if you can see the chat room, Charlotte, but the example, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? The example, there's another word for example with the green shirt. It's just got the chat room buzzing. So, but she's so correct. It's just things that an experience will just trigger in our minds, and we don't even realize it's happening. All right. And so we kind of, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But we don't know. That's the thing about subconscious bias. We don't. Yeah, the green shirt analogy just got everybody excited in the chat room. But we don't know it's happening. That I think that's, I don't know if that's a danger. That if danger is the right word or, yeah. But we all have them. We all have them dormant. It's all working there somehow in the background. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Trina is on stage. Trina, you got 2 minutes to share. I'm looking at the time. I can't believe it's already
Honestly.
the time just going so quickly. So guys, please, please, please be mindful of, how much time you spend sharing. I know you have a lot to say, and honestly, we'll always come back, next week, but please be mindful so other people can actually come on stage to share as well. Trina, say it loud. What are your views?
Hi, how you all doing?
Very well, thank you.
I am a little nervous to speak. This is the first time I've spoken in any of these talks.
Yay.
Thank
Clap, clap,
you.
clap. I'm ringing a bell for you. Clap, clap, clap. Well done.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring up two things. One was just that I think one topic that is a bit taboo for Christians these days is sexuality. I think we all forget that God created our sexuality for us, and in that goes our preferences and our attractiveness and who we're attracted to. So I think we can be a bit hard on ourselves when it comes to bias. I think the only time where it would become a problem is if we have negative sort of bias where we judge people and say, ooh, I'm not going to go there because they're Chinese, Japanese, black, white, whatever. And I think in that kind of circumstance, it is important for us to check our hearts and remember that we are to embody Christ, and realistically, Christ would not kind of have those thoughts about those people. So I think in that sense it is, but God did create our sexuality, and in that he did give us preferences. And the second thing I wanted to say was I noticed when we first jumped on this talk that one or two people mentioned about being equally yoked. And one thing I would say is obviously when God said this, he didn't refer to, black with black, white with white. I know we all know this, but in my Bible, I'm not sure if people have an NLT version, but I just wanted to read the first three verses of 2 Corinthians 6 for everyone, because I just love the way it's written. It just says, don't team. Oh, sorry, I misread that then. Don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can righteousness be a partner with wickedness? How can light live with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and the devil? How can a believer be a partner with an unbeliever? And what union can there be between God's temple and idols? For we are all the temple of the living God, and as God said, I will live in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people, and therefore come out from among unbelievers and separate yourselves from them, says the Lord. So in regards to that, it's not saying that we should, only be with people who are from the same kind of culture as us. I'm pretty sure God has put together loads of people from all over the world. It is literally referring just to obviously Christians being with non-believers. So I just thought I'd clear that up because I saw one or two people mention it at the start.
Thank you so much, Trina. Injide, do you want to respond to that?
But actually, I did think about that scripture before we came on, and when I read it, I went to the translation Bible, and it used the donkey analogy when it's unequally yoked, and yes, it does talk about believers and non-believers not having anything in common, and that's kind of straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I was having a relationship with somebody who's not a Christian, somebody who is of a different faith or not of no faith at all, I think I'll be very limited and frustrated in the relationship, no matter how handsome or how much money they earn, or other things that we tend to use to make a decision who our partners should be. So that's kind of straightforward. We need to be equally yoked. Yeah, so we can pray together and do all the things that Christians do together. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that and bringing clarity.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Thank you. Hopeful peasant. If you want to unmute and share, and welcome to anyone who's just joined us. This is Say It Loud. We come on every Wednesdays. I just have to reset the room so people know who we are, what we do. Hopefully you're having a good time here and enjoying the conversation. We come on Wednesdays, 8:30 to 9:30 British Standard Time. We are a room who just love people to come in and just share their views, no judgment, no condemnation. Please feel free to raise your hands if you want to speak. Please be mindful that others may want to speak for like 2 minutes. Just share briefly what you want to share, and then we can keep the room going. If Hopeful Peasant wants to share, otherwise, Inchide, do you want to read some comments?
So the comments are mostly responses to banter, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if there's anything. Daniel says, of course, I think he's responding to a comment. We bring God in from the beginning. He directs our path during the process. And then Dwayne made an interesting. Is it Dwayne that said that? Who said that some cultures cannot coexist? But I think subconscious bias is not just about culture. It's a whole lot of stuff. Like, I can't remember who was speaking up. As I apologize. I'm just reading. There's just so many names about the green shirt. It might be something about the eyes or something about the way they walk, the way they talk. It's just so many reasons. And they're all in a subconscious programming. Anne says to Jacob, with God, all things are possible. Absolutely. With God, all things are possible. Essay, I'm sorry if I've murdered your name there, says, we do have a say to whom we want to be with. God is a gentleman. I guess it has to be a joint decision. And that was a Jackie. And absolutely, I get that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah.
It has to be a joint decision with God. We can't do anything without Him, to be quite honest, and be successful at it as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what your thoughts are. Every time I have tried in my own strength, I have fallen flat on my face, So now it's just God, 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 you, whatever you say, Lord. So, hopeful peasants, have you managed to find that unmute button? Would like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from a guy as well. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. We're waiting to hear from you. I know you're busy chatting away in the chat room, but would like to. Layla, I've been putting you up and you keep disappearing. I don't know what's happening. Okay, Layla, do you want to go first? Because I don't know what's happening to.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So I just wanted to. So I think it's about like the bias of actually what you might think, not necessarily your bias, but what you may potentially think the other person may be biased against you. And I think sometimes that is a hindrance. I don't know what other people think about that. So, say for example, me personally, I feel personally vulnerable about my age, being a woman. Maybe like I've been a Christian for a long time. But at the moment, just like finding difficulty in going to church every Sunday and being connected, whereas previously twice a week. But it doesn't mean that I've lost my faith, but I just feel like sometimes also that could be from the other person, be a bit of a bias on them. And I guess that was kind of my point of view. It's not necessarily what your perception of the other person is, but maybe what you're perceiving the other person to be perceiving of yourself.
Inchide, what you think?
Yeah, that's a deep one, isn't it? Because sometimes we've been talking about ourselves and our subconscious biases. What about the other person's subconscious bias as well? And that gets things all muddled up. And that's correct. I thank God for Jesus. We can always go to God. I think that's where the human limitation comes into play, isn't it? And then we can take it back to God and say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I think this person is thinking. Lord, what are your views? Because you made us all in your perfect image, and you know we were going to be having this conversation. So, God, what's your take on it? Again, I'm kind of sounding like a broken record, but it's going back to God and saying, Lord, just like somebody already mentioned in the chat box, getting God involved in the process. It comes a partnership to say, Lord, this is what's going on. What is your take on this? What are you saying to me? What are you saying in this situation? Yeah, but that's a deep one. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Just
Thank
my
you,
little
Layla.
thought. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Layla.
you.
Okay. I don't know what's happening to our lovely
Lovely,
hopeful.
hopeful.
She
Hi.
said, she said you can unmute
Mute
now.
now. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Hello?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Hi. Yeah, so there were some really great points there. It's so interesting because I put in the chat that just this week I was thinking about that book that one of the ladies addressed about Derek Prince, and I found myself thinking specifically about the anomaly of age. But I'll be honest, I've been very guarded about age for several years, but as soon as that thought came, I'll be honest, I very flippantly thought I wouldn't date someone 23. I wouldn't. I'm 20. I'm 34, and I think I can say I look young, so I've always attracted a lot younger guys. But then, having said that, I also sometimes attract men who are probably 20 years older than me as well, which can be a bit frustrating. But I don't know. It kind of came, and I suppose really the preface around that, really, if I'm being honest with myself, spiritually is just kind of God encouraging, just to kind of maybe not be limited. But it's so interesting because as Layla said about sometimes, in a sense, like forcing myths about other people and the way they view you. I probably can be, maybe sometimes I probably do that, but I have found myself recently coming to a place of just really being at peace, that it's okay to have an idea of what I want, what I picture for the future, and feeling a lot more sure in that, because sometimes I think I forced myself in my own will of, okay, let me be open, but not really bringing God in that, and allowing him to kind of bring more understanding about it. But I think one of the things that's always guided me, and it might be very different to a lot of people. I don't think I've ever confessed it or said it aloud, but I'm always intrigued in the Bible when people were about to marry. There was always specifications of nations and cultures to go and marry amongst, and also it's because of the fact that there was a tributation, or a lot of the times they had really good character sets, or there were specific things about their traditions that the overseers would say, go and marry these nations, or these specific cultures, because we want to essentially uphold these traditions and values. So I think, not taking that out of context, but that's something that's always been in my mind for a long time. And it's always kind of guided me, and I've made mistakes, and then I've come back and seen that really was wisdom from God. You knew that was not going to work. Why did you try that? But, we learn. And also, just on a practical level, I think a lot of the times, just for me, I suppose I've said this before, a lot of the people, or the reception, if you will, on SALT isn't really, the people are just very disconnected from my life. And I think I just think about things on a practical sense of, am I realistically going to, move to somewhere like, I don't know, 20, 40, 50 miles away from London? No, I've done that before, and I'm just being very honest, I've had very negative experiences. I'm a woman of colour, and it hasn't worked out. And sometimes I do think, I don't know. And also I have people very near and dear to me who have, again, I really don't want to be discouraging in any way, because it's so important that we are open-minded. But I think I'm just a realist in a sense, and maybe pray for me, I don't know. But there are people that are near and dear to me, people that I also don't know in the church, who have been very honest and open about real challenges around interracial marriages, and there are some very serious, complex hurdles that you have to overcome. And I think sometimes I've just come to a place and I'm like, God, I don't want to struggle like that. And who's to say I don't know what's around the corner. But there are some, it can be very difficult, and people even telling me things about people having very, just not having having nice experiences, and one person was a male, and he seemed very pragmatic about that. But then I thought, as much as you love this person, that's also not okay that you have to accept that kind of that negativity from that person's family. So, but then I also want to be aware that they can be small anomalies. I can't assume that lots of people are going about this. But then, having said that, it is somewhat quite common as well. And I do hear people around me quite frustrated about the challenges about interracial or mixed marriages as well. But having said that, I also know as people of faith, we need to allow the will and the purposes of God to take place and be a mandate for us. So yeah, I suppose I just wanted to open discussion around that, and if anyone else has the same thoughts or not.
Thank you so much. I don't know, I'm getting some feedback from somewhere. But thank you so much for sharing your views. All I can just say is I wouldn't allow other people's experiences sort of like limit me from what God can do in my own life. And Injide, I don't know what you think. So just looking at someone else's experience does not necessarily mean that would be the same experience for me. And your thoughts and I don't want to use the word fears, your concerns are valid, that's the way you feel. But I just hope, God, just sort of like speaking to God, he can sort of like show you what exactly he wants for your life. And if there are any things that are bothering you, as has come across in the room today, please always take them to God. I'm very conscious of the time. It's already 1 minute more to go. I am so sorry for we can't bring up anybody else on the stage. It's been lovely having you guys here. Injide, do you want to share anything very quickly, just as we round up before we close the room? And please give us some feedback. Please don't just disappear. We'd love to hear from you. If there are any topics you want us to bring to the table, let us know. If you want us to bring these topics back as well, let us know. We'll bring them back. So Injide, do you want to share? Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, hopeful peasant. I don't know what your real name is, but thank you so much, Injide. And
quick one. It's always to take it back to God. This is just a complex topic, and we all have our differences and our different as we've come to learn. Things about culture, things about race, things about older, younger, whatever it is. And for me, is to always have that conversation with God. I mean, we haven't got time to kind of delve deeper into this, but biblically we can see that there've been instances where God had made certain matches, and you're like, oh, is that really? But that's why we take it back to God, because he has the final blueprint for our lives, right? And it's just been such a wonderful time and conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, everyone.